Sussex Downs really do make for a truly iconic landscape. And not just locally either, they could be said to represent England much as the Highlands do for Scotland or the valleys do for Wales. The hills of the Downs are made of chalk, and the thin chalky soils on top of them lead to a huge diversity of plants. There are grasses and mosses and wildflowers all growing in a hodgepodge together, and in some places you can find an amazing 50 different species of plants growing in just 1 square metre. In turn, that leads to a massive diversity of insects, especially butterflies. In the first part of the 20th century, around half of the area of the Sussex Downs were covered with this chalk grassland. But the Downs have changed dramatically over the last 70 years. Sure, the hills are still here and they always will be. But today, instead of 50% of the Downs being covered with chalk grassland, it's down to just 3 or 4%. That's a loss of over 90%, and that's terrifying. Because in terms of biodiversity, chalk grassland is our equivalent of the tropical rainforest. We've just lost so much of it. So what happened to it all? Well, huge areas of the Downs have been converted to arable farmland, and the traditional sheep grazing, which for centuries was the main activity of the Downs, suddenly stopped. It became more economical to keep grazing animals on the lowlands, topping up the grass growth with artificial fertilisers. No wildflowers down there. Without the grazing, rank grasses, brambles, scrub and trees grew up, shading out and destroying the chalk grassland. The Sussex Wildlife Trust have been working really hard to stop the rot. For the last 50 years we've been battling to retain what's left of chalk grassland in Sussex, and for the last couple of decades we've been really getting somewhere, even returning some former arable fields back to species-rich grassland. In fact, we've been so successful that now other organisations have asked us to help manage their land on the Downs. Now that's brilliant, and the more downland we can get under restoration and maintain that restoration, the better. But it's not easy. It takes very careful assessment of the particular ecology of the site before deciding on the best way forward. And that may be followed by hundreds and hundreds of hours of scrub removal and mowing, then often the reintroduction of grazing, usually carefully selected breeds of livestock. That means installing fencing, a water supply, all the other bits and bobs associated with keeping livestock, as well as checking on their welfare every day. And it is working. We're seeing proper chalk grass and flowers returning, and rare butterflies like Adonis blues and silver-spotted skippers. They're rising in numbers to form really healthy populations. But it's expensive. Even though we're able to call on our fantastic groups of volunteers to help with a lot of these things, it still costs the Trust a huge amount of money to keep our traditional native wildlife thriving on the small amount of chalk grassland there is left. Funding's becoming increasingly difficult to come by, so we're asking you to help us raise £40,000 so we can continue this work for the next 3 years. We daren't stop now. Our natural environment is under more threats than ever. So if you'd like to help protect this heritage that we all share, your Sussex Downs, please make a donation towards our appeal, no matter how big or small. Just click on the donate button and you've taken the first step towards protecting the future. Thanks.